Incoming! Take cover! Mortars explode across the training compound. Smoke everywhere. Screaming. Chaos. 30 Marines scrambling for cover as enemy forces breach the perimeter. But one person moves differently. Private Sarah Kim doesn't run for the bunkers. She runs toward the gunfire, blood already soaking through her uniform from shrapnel wounds, rain mixing with mud and blood on her face. First hostile breaches the command tent. AK-47 raised, scanning for targets. Sarah hits him like a freight train. No hesitation. Combat knife to the throat. Down before he knows what happened. But here's what nobody expects. Second and third hostiles turn toward the commotion. Sarah's already moving. Uses the first enemy's weapon. Double tap. Both neutralized. 4 seconds. 3 enemies down. The Marines who were mocking her wounds 30 seconds ago now stare in shock. What the hell was that? But Sarah's not finished. Fifth hostile attempts to flank the medical tent where wounded Marines are trapped. Sarah intercepts, doesn't use the rifle, uses her bare hands, disarms him with a joint lock that snaps his wrist, uses his own weapon against the sixth hostile. Professional, efficient, lethal. General Morrison arrives with security forces to find Sarah standing over 6 neutralized enemies, blood dripping from fresh wounds on her arms and torso, rain pouring down, complete silence. Private Kim, what happened here? Sarah wipes blood from her face. Routine patrol, sir. But here's what changes everything. Morrison looks at the 6 enemy combatants, all neutralized with professional precision, then looks at Sarah's wounds. Fresh blood, old scars, a roadmap of combat experience. Private, those wounds on your arms, where did you get them? Sarah glances at her blood-soaked sleeves. Training accident, sir. Those aren't training accidents. The general pulls out a secure tablet, scans Sarah's biometrics. What appears on his screen makes him go pale. Jesus Christ, you're Valkyrie. Those words freeze everyone within earshot. Here's what you need to understand about that call sign. Valkyrie isn't a private. Valkyrie is a Force Recon Marine with 8 years of classified operations. Someone who's completed missions that officially never happened. Sir, I'm just a private. You're a private who just eliminated 6 enemy combatants in under 90 seconds. But what Morrison discovers next explains why Sarah's here. He accesses her classified file, combat deployments, mission records, then stops at a medical report dated 6 months ago. Fallujah, I'd explosion. Your entire squad was evacuated. Sarah's expression doesn't change. Everyone survived, sir. Everyone except you. Morrison reads the medical report. 17 pieces of shrapnel, multiple organ damage. The medics didn't think you'd survive the night. I proved them wrong. But here's where the real story begins. Private Kim, this file says you spent 4 months in military hospitals, 3 surgeries. The doctors recommended medical discharge. I recommended returning to duty. They denied your request. They said I was psychologically unfit for combat operations. Wait until you hear why. Morrison accesses the psychological evaluation. Medical board determined you have survivor's guilt. Your squad lived because you absorbed most of the blast protecting them. Sarah looks at the neutralized enemies around her. My squad lived. That's what matters. You nearly died saving them. Nearly doesn't count, sir. But here's what the file reveals next. Private Kim, according to this, you requested demotion from sergeant to private and transferred to basic training. That's correct, sir. Why would someone with your record request demotion? Here's where the truth comes out. Sir, I needed to prove I could still do the job. You just eliminated 6 hostiles. I'd say that's proven. Not to them. Sarah gestures toward the Marines who were mocking her earlier. They see wounds. They see weakness. They see someone who doesn't belong. Morrison looks at the shocked Marines. They just watched you save their lives. But what Sarah reveals next shows the deeper problem. General, for 6 months I've been going through boot camp again. Every day, Marines see my scars and assume I can't keep up. Every training exercise, they expect me to fail. Do you fail? I outperform 90% of them, and they resent me for it. Here's what you need to understand about that resentment. Sarah's wounds are visible. Scars across her arms. Shrapnel marks on exposed skin. Every Marine who sees them assumes she's damaged, broken, weak, until they see her fight. Private Kim, those Marines were mocking your wounds before the attack. Yes, sir. What were they saying? Sarah wipes rain from her face. They said I look like I've been through a meat grinder. Said I should be in a hospital. not a training unit. And now they're silent. But here's where Morrison's understanding changes. Ma'am, why are you really here? You could be leading force recon operations. Instead you're going through boot camp with recruits. Sarah looks at the training compound. Young Marines learning to become warriors. Because these recruits need to learn from someone who's actually survived combat. They have instructors for that. They have instructors who've read about combat. I've bled in it. Wait until you see what happens next. The Marines who were mocking Sarah approach cautiously. One of them, Corporal Davis, speaks up. Ma'am, Private Kim. That was incredible. Sarah continues cleaning her weapons. Just doing my job. That wasn't just a job. You moved like what? Like someone who's done this hundreds of times. Here's where the whole truth comes out. Morrison makes a decision. All personnel, gather around. I need to explain who Private Kim actually is. 50 Marines form up in the ring. All eyes on Sarah and the general. Private Sarah Kim is not a private. She's Gunnery Sergeant Sarah Kim, Force Recon Marine, operational callsign Valkyrie. 8 years of classified combat operations. Silence, rain, shock. The wounds you've been mocking represent 47 combat missions, 12 urban warfare operations, 37 confirmed enemy eliminations. The Marines who were laughing earlier now look at the ground. She's here because she chose to train alongside you, chose to learn if she could still do the job after nearly dying to save her squad. But here's what Morrison reveals next. And today, when enemy forces breached this compound, Valkyrie eliminated 6 hostiles before any of you even reached your weapons. A young Marine raises his hand. Sir, if she's Force Recon, why is she going through boot camp? Sarah answers before Morrison can. Because I needed to know if Sarah Kim still exists. What do you mean? After the doctors rebuilt my body, but they couldn't rebuild my confidence. I needed to prove to myself that I'm still a Marine. Here's what you need to understand about that choice. Sarah could have accepted medical discharge, could have retired with full honors. Instead, she demoted herself and started over, not because she had to, because she needed to know if she could. Private Kim, Gunny. What you did today wasn't just impressive, it saved lives. Sarah shoulders her weapon. That's what Marines do. But what Morrison proposes next changes everything. Gunnery Sergeant Kim, I'm reinstating your rank. Sir, I respectfully decline. The compound goes silent. You decline? I'm not finished with boot camp yet, sir. Morrison stares at her. You just demonstrated you're the most capable combatant on this base. I demonstrated I can fight. I haven't demonstrated I can lead these Marines. Here's where Sarah's real purpose becomes clear. General, these recruits need to learn from someone who's failed, who's been wounded, who's survived when everything went wrong. They have drill instructors. They have drill instructors who maintain standards. They need someone who's survived the consequences when standards aren't enough. Morrison considers this. What are you proposing? Let me finish boot camp as a private. Then let me teach an advanced combat course as Gunnery Sergeant. Teaching what? Teaching them how to survive what I survived. 3 weeks later, Sarah completes boot camp, top of her class, then steps into her real role. Gunnery Sergeant Kim stands before 40 advanced combat students, her scars visible, her rank restored. That Valkyrie call sign no longer hidden. My name is Gunnery Sergeant Kim. You might know me as the private you've been training alongside. Today, I'm going to teach you how to survive when everything goes wrong. A Marine raises his hand. Gunny, why did you go through boot camp with us? Sarah looks at the eager faces, young warriors who need real combat experience to survive their first deployment. Because I needed to understand what you are learning. Now I'm going to teach you what boot camp doesn't cover. For 12 weeks, Sarah transforms 40 good Marines into survivors. Not just teaching tactics, teaching the reality of combat that training manuals don't explain. This is what it feels like when a knight explodes 20 feet away. She shows them, makes them experience simulated blast concussion, disorientation, the chaos that follows. This is what it looks like when your buddy is bleeding out and you have 30 seconds to save him. She demonstrates real trauma scenarios, real pressure, real consequences. This is what you do when your weapon jams and the enemy is 10 feet away. She teaches them improvisation, adaptation, survival when perfect training meets imperfect reality. On graduation day, General Morrison addresses the class. Your instructor taught you more than tactics. She taught you how to survive, the difference between training and combat. But here's the real test. 4 months later, 3 of Sarah's students deploy to combat zones. All 3 face situations their basic training didn't prepare them for: night attacks, ambushes, casualties. All 3 survive using techniques Sarah taught them. 0 fatalities among her graduates. That evening, Morrison finds Sarah in the training compound, still wearing the scars that tell her story. 3 of your students are alive because of what you taught them. Sarah continues her training preparations. They're alive because they learn reality, not just doctrine. Will you continue teaching? As long as there are Marines who need to understand what combat actually looks like. But here's what Morrison reveals next. Gunny, Marine Corps wants to expand your program. Make it mandatory for all combat deploying Marines. Sarah looks up. All combat Marines? Your survival rate speaks for itself. My program shows them wounds, shows them failure, shows them what happens when perfect plans meet imperfect reality. That's exactly what they need to see. Here's what you need to understand about those scars. They're not signs of weakness. They're proof of survival. Evidence that Sarah faced the worst combat can offer and came back stronger. Every Marine who mocked those wounds now understands what they represent. Not failure, not weakness, survival, adaptation, the will to continue fighting when everything says stop. General, being Valkyrie was never about being perfect, it was about surviving imperfection. And now I teach others how to do the same. Remember Sarah Kim when you see someone whose scars suggest weakness, someone whose visible wounds make others uncomfortable. Real strength shows its scars. Real warriors bear their wounds with pride. Sarah never stopped being Valkyrie. She just found a better way to serve. Teaching Marines that survival isn't about avoiding wounds. It's about continuing the fight after receiving them, with scars that speak louder than any medal ever could.